Filmlaringizninki mazmuni qanday maqsad, qanday bir g'oyalarni topgan shuni tushuntirib bergan bo'lsangiz.
Okay. On this picture we see the Idka Mosque, of course, which is the main mosque for the Uyghurs and kind of a spiritual and cultural center for the Uyghurs. And of course all the mosques, they have small notices on the wall that says that if you're under 18 or a student or applied by the government, you cannot visit these places. So the Chinese government are denying that these signs exist, but it's very clear. You can visit any mosque in Xinjiang and you will see that they refuse these young people and the people working for the government to visit the mosque. And on this photo, it's also just in front of the Idka Mosque, right in the center. We can see how they totally changed the environment close to Idka. It used to be old Uyghur houses and a small marketplace and so on, where Uyghurs could hang out during the afternoons and evenings and so on. But instead now it's more like an amusement park. And here we see the mascots for the Olympics, and also the big screen is a very big problem. They send Chinese pop music and stuff like this during the days, and actually in the Idka Mosque they hear this during the prayers very loud. I was there myself and I could hear the Chinese pop music, and this is typical kind of thing that the government is doing to show their power in this part of China, to kind of rebuild the areas that are most sacred to the Uyghur people, and do things like this. So it's kind of symbolic for the whole situation that they're building these kind of things and making it so different, just close to the most sacred Uyghur place in Xinjiang. This photo is showing the result of what many Uyghurs experience today. They are unemployed, they cannot get a job, and this has many different reasons. One reason is that as an Uyghur, you are, or I could rather say that the companies, they rather always choose Chinese people. Even if you have the same education and same skills, they choose the Chinese people instead of the Uyghurs for the work. So there's so many Uyghurs. Some people talk about 50%, 60% unemployed Uyghurs in the cities. So it's a very big problem. And what happens is that the Uyghurs have to sell things like this man on the photo. They get whatever they can get, and they try to sell it just to make some money for the day. So every day they have to struggle to get some income, and that's a very big problem in Xinjiang today. Because if you go to the to look at the job applications and stuff like this, you can see that they put signs like, "We only want Han Chinese to apply for the job," and this is a very big problem. This is a photo from the old Uyghur neighborhood in the central Kashgar, and it clearly shows that it's still very poor and very basic things they use in Kashgar. They haven't seen so much of the economic progress that you can see other parts of China. Xinjiang, of course, should be a very rich region with oil and gas and cotton and so on, but the Uyghurs, they don't see much of these wealth or this richness. So they live pretty much the same life as they have done for many hundred years. Photo right here is typical photo of Uyghur women. Maybe she's a little bit richer than the average Uyghur women, but this is typical. They have no problems for me to talk with them or to take photos. They're very happy to get photographed, and It's very good position for the women actually in East Turkestan, and they don't have to cover up their faces or anything, or they can move however they want in the city, which is not always the case in some of the neighbor countries. And actually the biggest and most important Uyghur leader living in exile is a woman, and her name is Rabia Kadir, and she's been struggling and working for human rights for the Uyghurs in East Turkestan for a very long time. And she was nominated to the Nobel Peace Prize a couple of years ago, and she got the alternative peace prize called the Rafto Prize. So Rabia Kadir is a very important woman for the Uyghurs, and hopefully in the future maybe she can become something like the Uyghurs' answer to Dalai Lama, what he is for Tibet, she can be for the Uyghurs in the future. Is taken at the pilgrim place Mazar, just outside of Yarkand, and Yarkand is a city in East Turkestan, maybe a few hours, 3-4 hours from Kashgar. And what we see here is 3 Uyghurs doing their prayers just outside the pilgrim place. And they told me that this has been a very sacred place for a very long time for the Uyghurs, and that the government just a few years ago, they closed down the whole thing. They cannot go inside anymore. And some people tell me it has a little bit to do with that there were some violence between Uyghurs and Chinese when the Red Army got into the area, and this was one of the places where the Uyghurs kind of could hide away. And yeah, so it has some connections with some sensitive things in the past, and that's why they wanted to close it. But the result was that now even more Uyghurs come as pilgrimage to this place, and this is like a very silent, very typical and clear silent protest against the Chinese rule over East Turkestan. That means that they are protesting in that way, that even more Uyghurs come to this place to pay the honor to this place, and also to show the Chinese that even if they close things down, they will keep on coming and visiting places like this. This picture right here is close to a school on the countryside, quite close to a city named Kargilik, and it's very happy school children, as you can see. And in the school, there are a lot of problems in the school. It used to be much better with the school policy. For example, in the 80s, in the 1980s, they were really putting an effort into helping the minority people in school with keeping their traditions and so on. But since beginning of the 90s and until now, it's been getting worse and worse and worse. Since a few years back, Uyghurs cannot get their education in their native language, which is of course Uyghur. Instead, all the teachers are teaching in Chinese or Mandarin, and this of course is a very big problem, especially on the countryside, where the kids, they don't know much Chinese. They know Uyghur and they can't really follow in the school, and then that makes them drop out of school very early. And another thing is that they cannot show any kind of religious or cultural symbols in the school. It's very, very tough. They cannot do any prayers, they cannot do anything like this in the school. And for example, during Ramadan, the teachers sometimes bring food to kind of force the kids to break the fast during Ramadan, which of course is a very bad thing to do if you're a Muslim, and if you're doing the fast during Ramadan. So that's one example. So the kids and the young people tell me that they cannot focus on their studies and at the same time keep their Uyghur identity. For them it's almost impossible. they have to choose either to drop out of school and keep their identity, or to focus on their studies, but then they have to be more Chinese, they have to speak Mandarin perfect, and they cannot be religious in any way. So this is a very big problem for Uyghurs, young Uyghurs at this time.